Keep standing if your company now employs 1,200 people across the country and your exhibits reach almost 3 million people each year. This is the last one standing, and deservedly so. Please welcome our first speaker of the day, Meow Senior Director of Artist Collaboration, Han Santana-Sayles.
Thanks. I was joking with Tim, it'd be really funny if somebody else kept standing. We had the same role. I just want to apologize. I was the one who challenged Rex to tell some dad jokes, the mayor.
Well, Han, listen, so excited to have you with us today. Before we get started, I want to let everyone know that we are taking audience questions. So follow us on Instagram at Unexpected Connections, and you can drop your questions into the chat box in the IG stories. So if you have any questions for Han or any of our other panelists, just follow us on IG and you'll see instructions there.
Yeah, sounds great.
So maybe, Han, for people who don't know what you do, tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you're doing at Meow.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Han Santana-Sayles. It sounds more like Ham, less like Han Solo, but I will respond to either. I've been with Meow for 6 out of the 8 years that it's been incorporated as a company, and my title, as you mentioned, is Senior Director of Artist Collaboration. At Meow, our bosses are called time worms, and so I've asked my time worm if I can change my title to Senior Artist Oracle, but I'm still waiting on that. So for now, Senior Director of Artist Collaboration. I am going to give a brief overview presentation on what Meow is for folks who may not know, and think from the name that it's a dog and cat shelter. This is going to be really wild for you. It's not. I will talk about this image a little bit later. This is called the Experience Tube. It's a real life product that we have at Meow. Unfortunately, Tim said that he wouldn't do the whole interview this way. I can't imagine why.
I said it would mess up my hair.
We'll come back to it at the end. So, origin story for Meow. Meow was established in 2008 as a ragtag group of friends, self-proclaimed punks, misfits, artists. For folks who may not be familiar with Santa Fe, it is the 3rd largest art selling market in the country, right after New York and Los Angeles. So it does have a really established art scene, but the kind of work that these artists wanted to do was more raw and wild because it was made out of trash, essentially. It was in warehouse spaces, super dingy environments, but it was totally fueled by passion, friendship, raw creative energy, and a lot of really cheap beer. In 2011, they did their first immersive installation for the show called Meowzors. I don't know who's coming up with the names at this point, but that show, 2 of the founders, Quinn Tincher and the late Matt King, who's in this photo with the glasses and long hair in the background, they just started making wall-to-wall muraling project in this little warehouse space, and they ran out of space. They started to make more of a cave-like environment, and when they stepped back, they had made their first immersive installation together. And from then on, they decided that this was the kind of work that they wanted to do at Meow. They wanted to be able to create worlds. And so I'm going to skip 8 years of history, but we do have an origin story documentary if you all want to check it out. What you'll be missing that's in the origin story documentary is 34 installations across the entire country and culminating in a large show at the Center for Contemporary Art that was called the Do Return. And they built a 30-foot long ship that you could actually get aboard and experience. It was an alien ship that had crash landed on Earth. And so they put out a donation bucket and collected funds. And by the end of a 3-month run, they had $20,000 just from donations. And so all of a sudden it was like, oh, our crazy little art collective could actually be jobs and we could employ other artists to do this really wild thing. And that is when we got together with somebody who you may know named George R. Martin. He's the creator of Game of Thrones. He has a home in Santa Fe. He says that he just can't find good enough green chili anywhere else, which is the truth if you haven't been. And he bought for us our first building, which is what is our flagship location called the House of Eternal Return. And the building used to be a bowling alley. It's in Midtown Santa Fe. So this was our first ever exhibit. So if you enter into the exhibit, for folks who haven't been before, after you get through ticketing in the lobby, you land at this familiar looking sleepy home. It just looks like a regular house, and you're probably questioning why you just spent $40. You're allowed to discover the home. There's no rules, there's no guidelines. You're really invited to let your curiosity take the lead and explore this family's house. And there's a real family that lives here. You can see their photos on the wall, you can read their cards on the refrigerator, you can sleuth through all of their emails on their computers, and you start to learn that, oh, it seems like one of the family members might be a cult leader. He says that he can help people travel to different dimensions. Oh, and this is really sad, but one of the kids in the family is actually missing, which I found out because I read the condolence card on the refrigerator in the mailbox. And there seems to be this weird organization called the Charter, which is trying to rein in these families' activities. And then you may start to notice that things are a little bit off. The ceiling is warped. The chandelier seems like it's edging into a different reality. And even the wall railings start to wiggle around a little bit. And as you explore further, you're faced with these opportunities that are normal spaces, like a refrigerator door or the washer and dryer, or there's a weird light glowing through the chimney place. And so you keep going further and further, and if you walk through the refrigerator door, it'll take you down an alleyway that leads you to Portals Bermuda, which is an interdimensional travel agency by a polite otherworldly host who tells you that she could take you to any place in the multiverse. Perhaps you go through the washer and dryer and slide into an enchanted forest. And as you walk by, these mushrooms change color and lights, and it seems like the whole space is sentient. Or if you crawl through the chimney, which is my favorite, especially when you see like older ladies just getting on the floor to crawl through the chimney. It's amazing. You'll end up in a mastodon cave where you can play the bones of this mastodon creature. And so this is what Meow Wolf is. It's an exploratory, large-scale, narrative-driven, immersive art experience, which is, it's hard to describe to folk people without these kind of images. And my work is in between all of these large spaces at Meow Wolf. There are dozens or sometimes hundreds of individual artist spaces. So we'll invite artists from around the community, sometimes across the country, to come make their own immersive environments. What's amazing about exploding into this multiversal space is that any logic will make anything make sense next to each other. So it's all juxtaposing and maze-like and choose your own adventure. And I knew that when I started at Meow Wolf in 2018, what I felt like I could bring to them was a focus on more diverse, emerging, underrepresented artists. I felt that the only thing that Meow Wolf lacked for me was an emphasis on exploring the socio-political and cultural landscape of each city. And you can do that still in a sci-fi way, and it actually makes it even more timeless, right? You're still exploring these themes that are important, but it's in another world. You're still commenting on our reality. So some of the ways that our artists do this is an artist based in Santa Fe named Virgil Ortiz, who's from Cochiti Pueblo, which is a pueblo very close to the town. This is his project, Secret Pass Keys and Portals, and he has a whole series called The Pueblo Revolt, which revolves around the real life incident of the Pueblo Revolt in 1680, and these characters that he's invented that come back from the future, from 2280, to help their ancestors. And so this is like an indigenous futurist storytelling that exists within the larger fabric of Meow Wolf. So these are the kinds of artists that I invite to come participate in our projects. Another artist, Corinne Lopperfita, with this project called Trash Temple. This is in our Santa Fe exhibit as well. Everything that's in this installation is a meditation on consumerism and our waste culture and planned obsolescence. So it's all things that would have ended up in a landfill at some point. And it's also a really fun time capsule. It's showing like an alternative use for trash in a more architectural way. And you can search for little objects from your childhood as well. Like I found a Tamagotchi in there, which I almost ripped off the wall. Another project and an artist y'all may recognize is Lauren Young-Smith. I invited Lauren to come do a project in our Santa Fe exhibit as well. They did this incredible project called The Ancestral Crypt, which is really about liminality. It's about the idea of being between male and female, life and death. They brought in their own Chinese heritage and culture with all of these gods, such as Tu Er Shen and Guao Yin, who's the protector of the queer and the protector of the femme in this really beautiful transcendent space. Lauren's in a video later in this conference. And that was open in 2016. In 2021, we opened our second location called Omega Mart. This is the location that's closest to all of you. It's in Las Vegas, and it presents as a grocery store. It's not long perusing the shelves that you notice it's not an average grocery store. You can buy items like tattooed chicken, and the radishes, the daikon radishes, seem very, very friendly. You can also buy whale song deodorant, or my favorite, salted peanuts without the peanuts, which is just salt. Once you are inside of the exhibit, which you slide into accidentally through the employee break room, or perhaps you fell into the spill on aisle 3, you end up in our factory space, and you realize that you're being moved around the space the same way that the products are being moved, and that there seems to be something going on that's a little bit nefarious about this whole thing. You can discover the Dram Corp offices, which is the corporation that runs Omega Mart, and go through all of their emails, and you find out that there's something being added to all of the products, the ingredients in Omega Mart, which is maybe why they're so weird. If you go through our projected desert, you'll discover that there's some kind of resistance forming to all of this. We also have 50 collaborating artist spaces on Omega Mart. On the left is Carrie Thompson with Juke Temple. He's a really well-known artist for these beautiful LED sculptures and color and light changing. And Claudia Bueno, who's from Colombia, she is very inspired by fossils and organic pieces. And there's what you can see, you can't really tell from the image, but it's 50 different panels, hand-drawn and etched, and the lights make this reverberation that really goes in between, like a bloom and decay feeling. Super beautiful. And then we also opened an exhibit in 2021. It was a very busy year. I don't remember sleeping at all, called Convergent Station. This is our Denver exhibit. It was our most ambitious project to date, which, I mean, I personally will never do again, but it's 5 stories of exhibit space, 90,000 square feet. We worked with 130 collaborating artists on this project. And the home base of Convergent Station is a transit station. And the transit station is called the Quantum Department of Transportation. And it takes you to this place called the Converged Worlds. The Converged Worlds are pieces of their own universes, their own worlds that mysteriously fell off of their worlds and converged together. So we have Emia, a world that is has an eon of ice. Numina, which is a 5th dimensional swamp. Don't ask me what 5th dimensional means in this context. The ossuary, which is a librarian species in a catacombs area, and then a bustling alien city street called C Street. And memory is a core theme of this whole exhibit, so you're trying to figure out what these memory storms are and how these worlds are trying to get back to their home planet, but accidentally forming a culture and maybe want to stay together. We worked with, like I said, 130 collaborating artists. This is by Stefan Lucero and Molina Speaks. It's called Indigenous Futurist Dreamscapes Lounge. Stefan Lucero is a really well-known Chicano artist and self-described meta-realist. This was his largest work to date, and he actually passed away just a year after opening the exhibit, so we're so honored to have his work here. Bet Art Collective is a Mongolian family. They wanted to make an installation based out of some masks, which are their traditional deities, which is the space called Mongovu Temple on the left. And on the right, Christopher Nelson with Crystal Futures. He makes all these beautiful rendered crystal blind pieces that you can see that they just look so realistic. This was a nice transitional space between a few different worlds. And then I'm not going to tell you anything about the Grapevine exhibit. We just opened an exhibit this year over the summer. This space is called the Neon Kingdom, but I encourage everybody to go check it out. Grapevine is only 20 minutes from the Dallas airport, so next time you're on a trip, you can go see it. So this comes back to what is the purpose of Meow Wolf? Meow Wolf is about opening portals of possibility. We are aiming, our vision is to redefine the paradigm of art and storytelling and use creativity to make a positive difference in the world, which is no small task. Community is really important to us. We are a certified B Corporation with other companies like REI and Ben & Jerry's. This is a still for-profit corporation, but it's for public good. And it's a designation that you can get, and it means that we have a high focus on community engagement, artist engagement, supporting our workers, and environmental sustainability, which we take very seriously. We also just started Meow Foundation this year. with our first $1 million fund for the Meow Foundation that we'll be granting at the end of this year, which we're super excited about. And I want to end with a description on this, which I hope you all enjoy. One of the secret sauce components to Meow Wolf is this idea that we call the accessible unknown. And it's the concept that if you combine just the right mixture of a known quantity and an unknown quantity, you can help people have transformative experiences. Too much known is boring. If we just did an installation of the house, I would agree with you that you misspent $40. And too much, like just jumping into the alien and the otherworldly, will make people think that, oh, this isn't me, I can kind of disassociate from it. But when you're able to combine those things meaningfully, you're able to lead people to having this like aha moment or these transformative experiences. That is our hope. So the way that you see this in all of our exhibits is through archetypes. So the house itself is the starting point, which leads to other worlds. The grocery store itself is the starting point before you go through the break room, and then the transit station as well. This was an advertisement that we did, that we put up big billboards all around Albuquerque for the Center for Pursuit of Existential Certainty, where knowing is best. And the idea was that there was this kind of average-looking lawyer man. There's still a website called lawyerman.lawyer if you want to check it out. And why choose Sherman Stokes? Because I'm out of this world. We did some, cheesy puns and everything, but then there's these odd things like identity expansion will knock out the competition. And if you go to the website, you can read all these reviews about all these people that he helped with existential certainty. And that's a real number. So we didn't put Meow Wolf's name on it anywhere, but we did do this intervention in public space, with these big billboards, and Sherman Stokes was in ads in the newspaper. And combining those things really stuck with people. There's something about it that really grounds you in a different reality. And our idea with Meow Wolf and the hope of Meow Wolf is not just to sell tickets, but to help people alter their perception of reality so that they can see infinite possibilities in the mundane. And that is the end of my overview.
I mean, yeah, definitely a hand for that, please. I have so many questions, but I think what we all want to know is, how the heck do you come up with these ideas?
Yeah. We have a whole team now that we call the Blue Sky team. That's actually my boss, who jokes that he's the vice president, and he jokes that his title is the VP of BS. But seriously, the Blue Sky team is a core team of creative directors, artists from all different parts of the company, and they do traditional kind of big brainstorming sessions where they generate big ideas over the course of days and weeks, and then they go through a process of vetting it with the rest of the company. But it's a really fun process with lots of offsites and ice cream and fun times, or drinking together, to just come up with the wildest idea and saying yes over and over again, not thinking about any of the logistics, but really just saying, wouldn't it be amazing if we could blank, right? We have these core tenets, but we're always trying to release ourselves from that and expand in those big ideas.
Now, a lot of people know LA, New York, maybe Miami as art hubs, but you all are based in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So tell me a little bit about why that decision was made.
Yeah, so 3 of the 6 founders are born and raised in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And if you haven't been to Santa Fe, there's something weird in the water there. It just has a lot of creatives, a lot of amazing, super weirdos. And so 3 of them came to Santa Fe because they were drawn to that specific scene, and then 3 of them were born and raised there. And they wanted to do something that was counterculture. So even though that there's a large established art scene, there wasn't a contemporary art scene that really embraced what the Meow Wolf folks were doing. And so they decided that they wanted to build something for themselves in their hometown. And it was amazing because we built it and the people came, and now we're we oscillate between number 1 and number 3 tourist attraction in the whole state of New Mexico. So we now drive tourism to the entire state through Meow Wolf.
And then you've since expanded to Las Vegas and Denver. So what was it about those 2 locations that attracted you to open an exhibit there?
Yeah, Denver is not very far from Santa Fe. It's about 5 hours. And so there was a big connection to the artist communities, just from cross-pollination, people coming from different locations together. And then when we were looking, we knew we wanted to do something super ambitious, and we were looking at sites across the country, and we were vetting a couple different places, but we landed on Denver because we loved the arts community and we just loved the vibe of the city. And we also found this very strange location. The building is in between 3 different viaducts. So it's not in any neighborhood. We felt like it was more responsible for us to not affect any neighborhood too dramatically. Now it's like at the very edge of a Sun Valley neighborhood, but it's like a 5-story building that juts up above the freeway interpass, and it looks like a little sleepy pizza slice. So the possibility of just like building something new in this super unique location was really compelling. And then for Las Vegas, we're part of a larger space called Area 15, which the idea is that it's like an immersive mall of experiences by Winston Fisher, and he just knew about Meow and loved us and invited us to be part of that as their core tenant. So we're an anchoring tenant on that site.
I want to talk a little bit about the economic impact that Meow Wolf has had in each of its locations. How can art and culture help people make money?
Yeah, well, I'm no business person, but Meow Wolf last year and 3 open exhibits that we had, our attendance was 2.7 million visitors. So what we're doing is working really well. It's drawing people and it's attracting people. I really think that believing in creatives, believing in wild ideas, and I know you all have here in Long Beach is a really supportive community, it seems like, for these wild ideas, but we just needed a couple people to believe in it, and George R. Martin buying us the building really changed the course of the whole thing. But I think that allowing a space for new concepts, not just relying on what you know and what works well, but truly embracing like innovation in all these odd ways. When we first opened, people were like, why would they go there? It's just going to be Disneyland without the rides. But we're so much more than that. And people really want to have, we found, these experiences. There's a huge experience market, and they want to have an art experience and a navigation, a narrative experience. And so I think believing in artists and like taking a chance on wild ideas.
How do you find like local community partners to work with, and what has the response been from these communities?
Yeah, so the core of my work is all of our collaborating artists, as I've mentioned. So that's what I'll answer. We also have a community outreach and development team, which does amazing work. So I find artists through a few different ways. I have a form online called the Want to Collaborate form. It's very cute. And anybody can submit their portfolio to me that way, and I will review all of them. I don't have time to email everybody, because it's thousands of people at this point, but when we're going to a new city, I'll see who's filled out the form first. I then go to a community and I'll do a month of research on the ground. And so I will just be at every event, go to every single gallery and art institution that I possibly can, and I'll ask artists, who are the curators in your community who really support you? Who are the community like organizers who you believe in and you trust and you want to work with? And usually 3 to 5 names will come up again and again, and then I'll go find those people and I'll hire them to build artist lists for us, and then I'll hire a couple of them to be artist liaisons for me, which means that they're going to be based there and they're going to stay with Meow Wolf till after we open, so that we remain like an ongoing arts institution in that city.
There are a lot of things I love about what you do, but one of the things you and I have talked about is this idea of adaptive reuse, which is finding new ways to use old buildings, old materials. So talk to us about adaptive reuse.
Yeah, adaptive reuse is so important, and I think it's like all of our responsibility to think of ways that we can use infrastructures that already exist, materials that already exist. One of my focuses for the coming year is going to be on helping educate our artists on using more recycled materials, like I mentioned with Corinne's project. The early days were made out of trash, but that wasn't really by design, that was necessity. But it happened to be really environmentally friendly, and so we're coming back to that ethos. With these buildings, there's just so many outdoor malls, like there's so many different movie theaters that are going out, or our space in our Grapevine exhibit used to be a Bed, Bath, and Beyond. And I always joke that we should have just renamed it Beyond, Beyond, and Beyond. But now it's a little weird that we're a mall tenant. I wouldn't consider us like a mall, company, but I think it's awesome that we're reaching all these people that are just going to the mall to buy some Nike shoes. and then they like stumbled upon this wild experience. So I think it really is in all of our best interest and a civic responsibility to look at what we have as we run out of space on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I love is that you really champion underrepresented artists. So how do you find these artists to work with, and why is that important to you?
Yeah, I mentioned a couple of the strategies, like our form, our curation. A lot of it is being in the city, being in the scene, finding the right artist liaison for our projects. That's important to me. I am Mexican, Spanish, Polish, and Irish, and the Mexican side of my family is the side that I grew up with the most. And so I always saw them and their experience of prejudice and discrimination in a lot of ways, and I've just always been an activist in that way and wanted better for all of them. And I also fully believe that it's not just like we're doing something good for artists. Those artists bring so much brilliant creative content to Meow Wolf. I feel that it's like a mutually beneficial relationship, and it makes our exhibits just explosive with creativity and culture and meaning, right? It's like what makes Meow Wolf a institution with relevance in my mind, rather than built in inside of a vacuum. And so for me, it's a lot of on-the-ground research, finding specific people, honestly, a lot of like stalking people's websites and Instagrams and socials. But everybody knows that. And having dedication and time and patience to find all the right people.
Yeah, I think it's important to put in the work because, when you put in the work, you can really find those people that you want to work with.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what is something that Meow Wolf can do to make a short-term impact on the economy of a community? And then what's something that you hope to do long-term?
Yeah, so all of our Meow Wolf exhibits are about 200 to 250 employees that staff them. So that is like the short-term kind of initial impact. And then, of course, our collaborating artist program, where we work with anywhere from like 30 to 130 artists. Long-term, we have community impact directors. The artist liaisons stay on site, and they really help develop our whole mission and program and make us like a continuing art institution and cultural institution in a given city, so that it's not just like a one and done. We rotate rooms, so most of what you guys saw, as you can tell, it's a very large scale. We don't rotate those like core anchoring spaces, but we'll rotate artist rooms. So there's always, every year, there's like a rotation of maybe 3 different projects so that there's a refresh at our exhibits. So we hire new artists, either that are local or from across the country. And long-term, that's really one of the reasons that we opened the foundation, because we wanted to have an arm of our company that didn't have any fiscal need for a return. It was completely just a charitable foundation work that we would invest in each community where we have a site or project.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the foundation, more about it, what it does, who the recipients are.
Yeah, the recipients right now, our focus is on arts in underrepresented communities. And so we have an incredible foundation director named Gabby Gomez, who came to us from the Santa Fe Community Foundation and has 15 years of experience in the nonprofit world, but really wanted to go past the nonprofit world model and just try some new things out. They're in their first granting cycle right now. They did like an invite proposal process with these organizations, and they're trying to give to small organizations that could really use it and have really tangible effects in the communities where they're located. So it's like a request process at this point, but I'm hopeful that in the future we'll have more foundation projects like residency programs or other concepts. But right now it's us supporting like the amazing work that existing nonprofits are doing in our communities.
Can you tease any other locations that might be coming up or places that you're looking at?
Yeah, maybe. We are looking everywhere. We're looking at major cities right now. We're looking at the East Coast. We're looking at the West Coast. This is all on our radar. Like every major city right now is under investigation.
So Long Beach, you know who to talk to after this presentation. We have some audience questions, but before we get to that, I know there's a special video you want to show. So
yeah.
Should we throw to the video?
Sure, let's do it. I wanted to mention something about long-term economic impact. So just to give you guys seem, you're all wearing business suits. So I'm going to give you some numbers. So in an average, I should have said this in the question of the long-term economic impact. So Meow's indirect and direct contribution for a city over any top 25 population city, we did this study, over the course of 10 years would be $2.5 billion because of the amount of tourism that we drive to a given city and what our people are doing. And then, wait, what else did you need?
I was going to throw to the video.
Oh, the video. Okay, great. Let's watch the video. So everybody should have had stickers at the front, and then I brought a couple experience tubes, like I mentioned. So I just wanted to play the video so you can learn for just a minute what the experience tube's about.
Are your coworkers checked out? Having a hard time putting your heart and soul into meetings at the office? Let the experience tube help! It's soft, it's easy, it's fabric! Simply attach each end to a face and the tube immediately fills with experience. Guaranteed! Watch the office come to life as people actually connect with each other. Eliminate the chatter, dial down the stress, and bring up the color of experience. Encase your spaces in the stock for two faces. Get yours today for the low price of $24.99. A real-life product for real-life moments. Made in the USA and gluten-free. It's also a scarf, hat, scarf hat. This is not a joke. Act now and get not one, but two super cool, unlimited edition friendship bracelets. Log on now to experiencetube.com and get yours today. Just the tuba. Brought to you by Meow.
Yeah.
That's a real thing that you
It's
can
a
buy.
real product. I brought 3 of them. So some of the folks who ask questions will be getting an experience tube. I'll pick my favorite questions. No, I'm kidding. It's random.
We thought of doing an audience demo, but I was like, it's way too early in the morning for that. All right, well, we do have some questions from the audience. A reminder that you can drop your questions on the Unexpected Connections Instagram page. Just follow our story, and that's where you can drop the questions. So one of them, this is interesting to me, to what extent was Meow Wolf conceived of as a monetized business? Was it passion first, then business plan, then investors, or has it been a different order?
Yeah, that's pretty much the order, as you guys probably could tell from my presentation at this point. It was totally, completely passion, and all of the founders that were working on the project just couldn't make any money. They were all doing food delivery service jobs on the side while working these super long hours, 16-hour days to build a giant double-height ship, in the Contemporary Arts Center. And once they realized that they could make some money off of it, they wanted to provide jobs for themselves as artists, as working artists, and jobs for their friends. And so now we're a legitimate business. We've come up with a great business model, and we employ 1,200 people across all 4 of our exhibits.
That's great. Another question we have is, how does Meow Wolf strike a harmonious balance when curating artists' works, so in a manner that genuinely reflects and honors the local community?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I do a demographic survey of the city, usually with data from our marketing team and my own research. And so I want a profile of who exactly is in that city. And I come up with curation goals at the beginning of curating, because it's a group effort. I come up with all the artists and make strong recommendations, but it's up to me and a panel of creative directors. And so it's really a process. We have a really thorough creative process that tries to minimize bias. We review applications first individually, and then we get the results culminated and presented to a group so that there's not too much influence on people who are powerful or more powerful than each other in creative direction. And then I review the list several times over to really check, like, does this align with our aesthetic goals? Is it weird? Is it surreal? Is it kaleidoscopic? Is it mind-bending? And does it align with our demographic goals? And are we truly reflecting the city? Are there ways in which our aesthetic goals are actually limiting our other goals, right? Are we saying, it needs to be too abstract, when really more of this work is representational? And because people who are underrepresented want to see themselves represented, and that is their work. And so I'm constantly challenging that and trying to come up with ways to have a good mix of people that are represented inside of the exhibit. But it's a back and forth process, for sure.
It also makes me think, about the power of promotion and self-promotion. You talk about
Yeah.
how you discover these artists in these cities. You know, if you have amazing artists and creatives in your city, but you're not talking about it,
Yeah.
it makes it much harder for people like Han to find you and to come to your city to find these artists.
Yeah.
So, you know, I always think, you know, if you love something, post about it, tell people about it,
Yeah.
and eventually people will discover it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know it's hard for artists to self-promote all the time, but it really does help to have some kind of consistent portfolio up online. But that's why I do the on-the-ground research too. I'll hire people who I find a really good mural, and that's the first mural project that they've done. I've hired like 3 people like that. I'll just find their tag from Instagram by walking around the city. And invite them to come do a Meow project, or the people that have no social media presence, but other curators know about them. You know, if you're in a city, somebody will hopefully know about you. And that's what I'm trying to like do detective work, Sherlock Holmes, to find out.
I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. You know, one is, how has the local business community and city leadership teams reacted to Meow Wolf? Was there any skepticism at first?
Yes, definitely at first. I mean, again, how do you describe this concept that's going to go in a defunct bowling alley? We even kept the bowling alley sign. So if you go to our Santa Fe exhibit, it's a bowling pin. And we kept the bowling alley carpet, which is like a glow-in-the-dark 80s bowling alley carpet. But, you know, it doesn't take long until the city officials and business people, they wanted to support it, and it really was just a matter of testing it. And once we sold out for like almost the first year straight and just excelled across all of our attendance standards, people really got behind it and realized it was going to be like a huge economic driver.
Once you bring millions of dollars in tourism money.
Yeah. So weirdly, that seems to do it. Yeah.
Well, I think the last question is actually a really good way for us to end, which is, you know, in the midst of rapid expansion everywhere, what are some key learnings that you've gleaned and incorporated into planning future locations?
Yeah, key learnings. I've just learned to be very transparent about what Meow is. It's not right for every artist, but it is incredible for some artists. It's an opportunity to build larger for most artists who haven't had the chance to make an art installation like this with really great funding. But we're also incredibly collaborative, and we have to be, because the way that we're themed by the city is as a themed entertainment experience. So our artists have to learn how to build with fire-safe materials so that if our maze-like building catches on fire, it won't all go up immediately. And that's a big challenge for people. And so I've learned to be really forthright about the kind of collaboration, the kind of opportunity that it is. And I've also learned that like my instincts were right. With Meow, I've always been curious about this concept of how do you have ethical expansion? How do you go into community and do good and not harm? And it takes a lot of hard work to engage in that, but it's so meaningful when you're able to do it. And so for all of us, like them trusting their creative ideas, me trusting my community ideas has been a really beautiful blend of things.
I think that's beautiful. I mean, let's hear it one more time for Han Santana-Sayles.